Hello, this is WG, and welcome back to another podcast. In today's podcast, I wanted to talk about an interest that I have been researching and looking for more information about for quite some time, and I'd like to share that interest with you. So, without further ado, let's begin. Before I begin, I'd like to say I've now started to introduce video to my videos. As you know, before this video, I used to just record a static background plate. Now I've decided to use Google Slides and better video editing software. However, this will result in my videos being shorter. So let me know what you think of this change in the comment section down below. So without further ado, let's get straight into this podcast. So I want to talk about a couple of things today. The EF scale, a tornado watch versus a warning, and what exactly is a tornado. So let's first get into what is a tornado. Tornadoes are cylindrical objects which come down from clouds. These tornadoes can often result in some really interesting extreme weather. Now, tornadoes are extremely rare, but there are certain tornado hotspots where tornadoes happen really frequently. These include the infamous Tornado Alley in the US, including states such as Oklahoma, I believe North Dakota, South Dakota, Mississippi, Arkansas, Alabama, states around there, as well as places like Bangladesh, I believe, commonly have tornadoes. Now, tornadoes are comprised of the cylinder, which extends from what is called a funnel cloud down and touching the ground. It's only considered a tornado when it hits the ground. Prior to that, it's just considered a funnel cloud. And now, if you look at this image on screen right now, this tornado seems to be pretty thin. However, tornadoes often come in all shapes and sizes. So, if you look on this slide, on the left, the tornado is extremely thin, and yet on the other side, I believe this tornado is roughly 2 miles long. So why are they both classified as a tornado? So tornadoes are classified using what is called the Enhanced Fujita Scale, or EF, formerly known as just the Fujita Scale, but I believe it was revised. So the Fujita Scale rates tornadoes on a scale from EF0 to EF5. And EF6, but we'll get into that one later. So EF0 tornadoes are travel at about 65 to 85 miles per hour. They're generally pretty thin, and they can do things like knock down small trees, move around some objects. They won't do serious damage, like maybe a little bit of minor damage to home roofs, patio chairs, things like that. Now an EF1 gets significantly more powerful, reaching up to speeds of 110 miles per hour. EF1 tornadoes are powerful enough to flip a mobile home. So if you live in one of those, and you live in an area known for its tornadoes, be very careful. So EF1 tornadoes can also cause more damage to larger trees and things like that. EF2 tornadoes get pretty considerable damage. They can do damage to roofs, damage to the exterior of a home, and then once you hit EF3 tornadoes, capping out at about 165 miles per hour, they get really, really serious. I would say EF3 tornadoes can damage the outside of a house, do considerable damage to the roof, and overturn large trees, potentially even destroying buildings made of glass, things like that. I listened to a documentary by PBS, I believe, called Deadliest Tornadoes, in which I believe they stated that an EF3 tornado is equivalent to about 10 tons of TNT, which gives you some comparison. Now we get to the latter three tornadoes classifications: EF4, EF5, and EF6. So the EF4 tornadoes, they can do significant damage to the interior of a house. In addition to the exterior, your roof is pretty much gone if you get wiped out by an EF4. Large trees knocked over. Cars generally start being thrown around by EF4s. And one thing not mentioned on the slide here is the width of a tornado. Often the EF0 tornadoes are the very thin ones, as you can see in this slide on the left. But EF4 tornadoes can start to get larger at 1 mile, maybe even 1.5. And then you hit EF5s, the rarest and the most devastating tornadoes in existence, reaching 200 plus miles per hour. The very famous El Reno tornado was classified as an EF5. The Tri-State tornado was classified as an EF5. EF5 tornadoes, you would probably need to live in you'd probably have to be in a very deep basement or the safe room of a brick house to survive an EF5. EF5s are just breathtaking, and if you go back to the slide, that tornado on the right is an EF5. I've heard of EF5s going up to 2.5 miles in width. They are very incredible tornadoes. Definitely check out some footage on YouTube if you can. So another thing I'd like to talk about is the difference between a tornado watch and a tornado warning. So these are two terms that are often thrown about, and they definitely come handy in places where tornadoes are common. Well, as common as tornadoes can be, I guess. So during a tornado watch, and credit to NashvilleSevereWeather.com for this infographic, a tornado watch is the situation in which a tornado can possibly occur. There are likely weather conditions, and there are people who are checking the weather using weather balloons, radar, things like that. They're scanning the weather, and a tornado is likely. Now, this does not mean that disaster is spelled out. This just means that you should be extra vigilant, keep your radio running, or television. How many people actually have a radio here? I have a radio. Okay. Let's not get into that right now. Check for forecast updates, monitor the sky conditions, make sure you know where to stay safe. If you have a safe room in the center of your house, that's good. Get as low down as possible. If you live in a house and you have a basement, perfect. If you live in a building, try to get to the center of the building on the lobby, or if you have a parking garage. But, word of warning, do not hide under an underpass if there is a tornado and you're outside. An underpass will collapse on you, thus breaking all the bones in your body. So, just word of caution, don't hide under an underpass. And what is a tornado warning? A tornado warning means that a tornado has touched down in your area. Take action immediately. Hide, go into your underground shelter, follow information, and keep your radio, TV, or whatever running. You will need it. Now, note, tornadoes have in the past gone on for less than 2 minutes, but some are now going for 10 minutes or more. And the infamous Tri-State tornado that I previously mentioned went on for about 3 hours. So, if I'm not mistaken. So, tornado times for how long they stay on the ground vary, but in general, a tornado warning won't last too long, but be careful. So, how did I actually get interested in tornadoes? So, I mentioned this PBS documentary. There was this documentary called Deadliest Tornadoes. When I was younger, I got the chance to watch it, and I was immediately hooked. It was a great documentary. I watched it over and over again, and then when I got older and we got Netflix, they still had it there, so I continued watching Deadliest Tornadoes, and it was really great. And then Netflix unfortunately removed Deadliest Tornadoes and replaced it with Oklahoma's Deadliest Tornadoes. Well, I'm not the biggest fan of the new documentary. there's still many similarities between the two, and definitely check it out if you can. So, I don't really watch these two documentaries anymore, but that's what piqued my interest in tornadoes, leading me into a spiral to learn more about them. I still have very fond memories watching the clips of tornadoes, how beautiful they were, and how destructive they are. They're truly forces of Mother Nature to be reckoned with. So, actually, before I conclude there, you just saw my ending slide, I want to talk more about that really famous tornado called the Tri-State Tornado. Now, I forget which states I will check right now actually what states the Tri-State Tornado went through, but as I mentioned previously, it was an EF5 tornado. Now, the Tri-State Tornado was so interesting because it took place on March 18th, 1925. Now, peak tornado season is probably springtime, so this was like really early into tornado season. And back in 1925, this was really destructive. I believe it dealt about 2.2 billion US dollars adjusted for inflation. 695 people died, and the three states it occurred in were Missouri, Illinois, and Indiana. And it lasted so it started in Missouri and ended in Indiana. I forgot to mention, those are also part of Tornado Alley. So I made a mistake earlier. This tornado lasted for 3 hours and 37 minutes, which is really impressive because, I mean, that is incredibly long for a tornado. And actually, before I forget, I want to go back to the EF scale. You might have noticed the EF6 right there. EF6 tornadoes are supernatural in strength. Like, I just added it at the end of the footnote, and they have literally never happened before. They're just theorized, but no EF6 tornado has ever struck the Earth on record. I imagine EF6 tornadoes, had they existed, could probably easily take down a skyscraper, damage steel, do significant damage to steel buildings, toss around concrete, like those really huge concrete slabs in parking lots. I imagine that they could be tossed around like cars in an EF6 tornado. So I'm very happy that EF6 tornadoes have never occurred, and I really hope that they don't occur. But I think that is all for today. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast by WG. Please subscribe and hit that notification icon for more content. And make sure you like this video and share it with those you think who would enjoy this content. Now, without further ado, thank you so much for listening. This has been WG Podcasts. Signing off, WG.